Welcome to today's episode of the Head of the Race podcast. I'm your host, Maya, and today we are here to talk about the fifth stage of the Vuelta España 2023. Today we had another sprint stage, which may not be the most exciting of stages or not those kind of stages what I would tell my non-cycling watching friend to watch, but I definitely feel like these kind of stages are highly underrated because people just don't want to watch the whole 100 and something kilometer stage because they're just not that keen on watching sprints. But personally, I believe that these kind of stages have some of the most interesting dynamics when it comes to what teams are doing, how they're controlling the race, what they're trying to do on every single one of these kind of stages. I feel like it's a really interesting thing and it's highly underrated, especially when you think about what happened today with Filippo Ganna, which is something that I feel like it's exciting for a lot of cycling fans, but we're going to talk about that in a second. So when it comes to the stage, today we started in Morella and we ended in Buriana, and I feel like today was, again, one of those stages when you wouldn't really be missing out if you started watching with 40, even 30 Ks to go. But, of course, if you're listening to the podcast, you're going to learn even more than you would have even if you watched the race, because I'm just sharing my thoughts and what I think every single one of the teams did and why they did it. So the main kind of climb that we had today was the Colado de Ibola. I'm trying to perfect my Spanish a little bit here. Just wait till you hear my French. That's going to be just even better than the Spanish that I'm trying to do here. Even though I studied French for a whole lot of my life, I can say like je m'appelle, and this is like basically it. I've never been a fan of French, even though I studied it for a really long time. But back to what I was saying, today's finish was next to the beach, so I was kind of already in my head expecting maybe a bit of a slippery road, because we all know that even though the finish itself is not exactly, underwater, still this kind of water, the humidity in itself might cause the road to have a little bit of a slip to it. And even if someone says that is not physically possible, I believe that. I believe that is possible, and I feel like I'm saying the truth. I don't know, when I went to Lisbon, which I know that it's not, like the locals say it's a river, I think it's a sea, and I think that it was slippery there. It was also slippery in Rome, which is like in the middle of Italy, but whatever. We're not gonna get into that. Today was another one of those 1 million roundabouts on the entirety of the freaking stage. Like, I saw someone say on Twitter, some team I think posted on Twitter that today we had 16 roundabouts in the last 16 kilometers of the stage. So I was like, yeah, this is going to be interesting, especially because there were also some points up for grabs, which means, of course, bonus seconds. And today a GC person actually did end up going for the points, but we're going to talk about that in a sec. As I said, today I'm not really going to get into what happened in the beginning of the stage. I'm going to just kind of explain who went in the breakaway and what happened with that. But other than that, it was just, GC teams controlling, and I'm gonna try and explain why do DC teams like Jumbo-Visma, like Quick-Step, try and make sure that on top of the climbs they are the teams that are in the front. So I'm just gonna try and explain that. So basically, when you are a rider in the front of the peloton, when you're at the top of the descent, when you're about to be descending, you are in the best position. Why? There are a few things that are the reason to that. First of all, you have the least likelihood of getting caught up in a crash in the back of the peloton. And why is it easier to get caught up in a crash in the back of the peloton? First of all, you have more riders in front of you, which causes the possibility of a crash to be in front of you highly. Like it's gonna increase the possibility of that happening. Second of all, when the peloton decelerates in the front, they're gonna feel, that the speed is going down, but just a little bit. But for the people in like the back of the back of the back, the same deceleration of the speed is gonna feel 5 times like more intense. It's just physics. I don't know. I'm not a fan of physics, but still, you kind of get the point. Imagine if you are on a group ride or someone, when you're in the back of the back of the back, you're going to feel the most affected by the people braking in the front rather than the people that are right there in the front. It's just going to cause that domino effect of the speed kind of going up. It's just kind of logical in physics. So just imagine that. And also, sometimes, you want to dictate the tempo. Some teams might try and go too quickly for your liking. And when you have a guy who's not that big of a fan of descending, because when you have a rider such as, I feel like, in my personal opinion, Julian Alaphilippe, which is a really good descender, he might try and go really fast on the descents. When you have a guy like Matej Mohoric, he's also going to go really fast on the descents. But if you have a rider who's trying to try and stay safe, the GC teams are going to try and make sure that the tempo is not too crazy. Of course, they're not going to go super slow because sometimes descending really slow is also dangerous. I personally don't. Yeah, it is dangerous. I know. But when I'm descending with 220 k's an hour, do not tell me anything. I am such a slow descender. I'm like, it's so bad. Where I live, there's a bunch of climbing, of course, but the descending, I am descending as fast as the grandma on the mountain bike with like one gear next to me, and I do not want to hear anything about that. So this is why the GC teams want to make sure that their riders are as much in the front as possible. They're not usually the first guy up, but they're probably the second or third person in that kind of lineup just for safety reasons. And that is why GC teams want to make sure that their riders are in the front of the peloton when the peloton is descending. So when it comes to today's stage, it wasn't as dangerous as yesterday when it comes to the finish. We still had a pretty sharp right turn, right, like they were turning right, a turn, but it wasn't as bad as what we had yesterday when they were just roundabout on turn. So I feel like that was definitely better than yesterday. When it comes to the more unfortunate news, we had Eddie Dunbar crashing in the neutral zone. So the neutral zone is basically that little bit of time when the riders are riding, but they're not racing before the official kind of start of the race. So he crashed there. This is kind of, I feel like, Pogacar this year, he crashed during Liège-Bastogne-Liège, also in the neutral zone. So this is like trying to explain what kind of, time that is. So like before even the stage kind of starts. And also, unfortunately, despite what I said yesterday, maybe Coquard is gonna, he's gonna be fine. He's not gonna, he's gonna be fine. He did end up not starting the stage. So unfortunately, we were losing one of those stronger sprinters of this race, which I was really sad about because I was really rooting for him to win a stage. But, yesterday's crash was just really unfortunate. This is what happens during these kind of high-speed sprint stages when the riders are nervous, the peloton is nervous. You're trying to make sure your positioning is right, but then you still have to think about where you're at, how much do you want to use your legs. It's just kind of those situations when the peloton is nervous and it affects the riders. But what can you do? It's unfortunate. So when it comes to the breakaway today, we had Fagundes, Eric Antonio Fagundes. I'm so sorry. I know my pronunciation is probably just absolute trash, but I cannot. I think he's Uruguayan. Uruguayan, is that how you say that in English? I don't know, but he was in the breakaway, and a kind of an unfortunate thing happened to him because I feel like he was trying to go for the points on the climb, and kind of Alpecin de Koenig was pulling a lot in the peloton on the climb, and I think Quickstep, so they kind of like pulled up really close to him, to Fagundes in the breakaway. And Sepulveda, the actual guy wearing the polka dot jersey, so the King of the Mountains jersey, he kind of used that and took advantage of it and pulled up to Fagundes, and he used that situation and attacked Fagundes, and that he ended up taking the points, which I thought is really sad because Fagundes has been in the breakaway solo for most of the day, and then Sepulveda comes in and steals the points from him. I think it's just, pretty unfortunate because he ends up being the biggest loser of the day because you are escaping from the peloton alone by yourself, which is also not physically hard, but mentally hard as well. But what can you do? It's just the reality of cycling. Nothing you can do really about that, But it's definitely unfortunate. When I was watching it, I was like, yeah, I feel bad for the guy. And then with 90Ks to go, Alpecin is in the front with one rider, but of course then you have Quick-Step really high up there. Of course they have Remco in the red. Like I said yesterday, the team that has the rider in the red jersey, in the leader's jersey, if it's the Tour de France, in the yellow jersey, if it's the Giro, in the pink jersey. But this is the Vuelta. We have the rider in the red jersey. He's the leader. They're gonna be in the front controlling the race, which is why sometimes team give away their jerseys. They give away jerseys because they want to give the responsibility of controlling to another team so their riders can rest. But, now Remco kind of got the jersey. He even jokingly said after the third stage, oh, no, I got the red jersey now, I guess. And, he wasn't, of course, it's kind of like, yes, he's happy about the jersey, but still he said that. So, then we're on the ascent of the climb, and Ineos goes to the front with Egan Bernal actually going to the front right before Geraint Thomas. And that's when I kind of knew that they were trying to do something on today's stage, because normally we would have probably have maybe like someone else in the front, maybe a Omar Fraile, or maybe even a Ganna, because I don't feel like today's climb was that difficult. And when I saw that Ganna was not in the front, I was already thinking, okay, what are they trying to do with this? Because I know that they were trying to do something. Of course, Robert Gessing in the front, like usually on these kind of climbs in the beginning, maybe not in the beginning, but, not on those particular climbing parts where, you have to be climbing really intensely. And of course, Dylan van Baarle was out there in the front. Alpecin still trying to keep position, making sure Caden Groves is high up there. He's not lost in the peloton. He's not using unnecessary energy, just trying to burn his legs getting up to the front of the peloton. So they're trying to make sure that their position, is there. And of course, Quick-Step, like I said, they're in the red. They're going to try and be in the front as much as they can. And today, actually, they were really good at keeping Remco in the front. They were descending mostly in the front. I actually took like a screenshot of my GCN, the race. 52Ks to go when they were descending from the climb. Remco was second. He was the second person in the peloton, and I thought, wow, this is really good for Remco, because he's in a really good position today on the stage like this. You do not want to take any unnecessary risks. So I thought this is a really good situation from him, and I thought that Quick-Step did a really good job of making sure that he's in the front and that he's in a good position, which I thought that he's definitely going to be happy about that. Then we are 30 kilometers to go. We have Groupama FDJ in the front, of course, trying to do some sort of controlling and some sort of making sure that Lenny Martinez is in a safe position. So they were in the front. Ineos, like always, the big teams, Jumbo-Visma and UAE were also in the front. Quick-Step kind of went more to the back there, but they were still, you can still see Remco there. You can still see that he's high up. They were just behind Alpecin, which I also thought was a pretty smart thing to do, because Alpecin is in the front. They're controlling the race. They want to win the stage, so they're going to be really well positioned in the front if they want to win the stage. And you're kind of making sure that your riders are in the front, but they're not particularly the first team, which is kind of like they're saving their legs, they're saving energy, and I do not feel like they're really risking anything happening, because Remco is still pretty high up, but still your team is not like first. They're using the wheels of Alpecin, and they're kind of resting. Your riders are resting basically. And then 15Ks to go, it gets kind of more hectic. We're coming up to the intermediate sprint. And now I'm going to try and explain why the intermediate sprints are as significant as you may not have thought. So, of course, intermediate sprints are places where a rider can get points for the classification of the green jersey. So that's important for them. But why are they important for GC guys? They are important for them because these kind of places are places where you can get bonus seconds. What is a bonus second? For example, if you get bonus seconds, the chunk of your time, so let's say you had your entirety of your racing time spent racing was 12 hours, 56 minutes, and 6 seconds. So now your racing time, when you have 6 bonus seconds, is going to get reduced to 12 hours, 56 minutes, 56 minutes and 0 seconds. So you kind of cut out the time that you normally would have had on your general classification time away from like basically you cut it out. So that is a gain for you because, for example, let's say a Remco would have 56 seconds on Jonas Vingegaard, and normally he would still have the 56 seconds, but now he has 1 minute and 2 seconds because he has 6 seconds of that time bonus. So now Jonas loses those 6 seconds without Remco actually having to do any big thing on the mountains. He just kind of has to sprint on, which I feel like today's intermediate sprint was the perfect one to get some bonus seconds because none of the teams were really that organized. I don't feel like Alpecin were that organized. None of the sprint teams. I don't feel like Citroën really went to the front trying to do something for Vendrame. So I feel like this was a perfect stage for a GC guy to try and do something and attack. So I feel like Remco used his opportunity perfectly. And then we come up to the intermediate sprint, which I feel like this was the one thing that I was really not happy about today. They kind of had this weird thing where they basically the road got a bit more tighter. They kind of did like two they basically they put these weird they basically made I cannot explain it. It's a visual thing. The road kind of went a bit tighter, so that was one thing that I was not really excited about because you're coming up to the intermediate sprint. The teams are going to go really fast. They're going to go way more quickly than they would have normally if there would have been an intermediate sprint. So that I was kind of not happy about, but still what can you do? What can we say? And also, just keeping with the theme of the roundabouts, there were so many roundabouts. I wanted to try and keep track of the roundabouts, but then I was like, this doesn't even make sense. Why would I ride down all of these roundabouts when there's a roundabout and a roundabout and a roundabout and roundabout right after one another? And this is why I think Remco uses opportunity perfectly. So basically, UAE kind of started to do some work and they tried to take some of, I don't know if they were going for a sprinter. I didn't know if they were going for Milano or who they were going for, maybe Ayuso or Almeida, trying to gain some of the bonus seconds, but they kind of ended up doing some work, but coming out with basically nothing on the occasion because they kind of look all confused. There was some pulling in the front, but then they were like, I'm actually not going to try and sprint for the bonus seconds. You try and do that. But no one actually ended up doing anything. And Remco used his situation perfectly because he ended up coming behind from, like I said, which is why I think it was really good positioning of why Quickstep were riding behind Alpecin Deceuninck. Because you're riding behind Alpecin Deceuninck, which are definitely going to try and go for the intermediate for Caden Groves for the green jersey. So yeah, maybe you're gonna lose to Caden Groves, who's trying to go for as many points as he can, but Remco is still gonna try and he's still gonna gain some time. Maybe he's not gonna gain 10 seconds, but he's still going to gain about 6 seconds. So this is why I think Quickstep did a really good job positioning themselves today. So basically, the Quickstep riders are going to be behind Alpecin Deceuninck, which is trying to make sure that Caden Groves goes for the intermediate sprint. So they're naturally going to be behind them in a good position. So Remco can try and launch his own sprint and try to gain some time on Jonas, on Enric Mas, on Primož Roglic, or basically all the GC guys. So this is why I think that their positioning was really good. Because Remco can just, use the wheel of the Alpecin rider and the quick step rider that is in front of him. I actually don't know who is in front of him because the way that they show the riders on TV, I cannot tell who is who because it's mostly the drone camera, which you cannot really see who is who. Of course, if there would have been a better camera, you probably would have saw, but I don't know who it actually was. So he goes from the back of his quick-step rider, who was behind the Alpecin rider, and he gains basically 3 seconds on the other GC guys. And of course, Remco wins the sprint, but Caden Groves comes second. And I heard someone say that Remco basically asked him, I hope you're actually sprinting, not just, riding, something like that, which just kind of proves, despite what many of us think, Remco is actually a human and it's just not all a walk in the park for him. So shout out Remco. He ended up doing that perfectly. I thought he used his chance perfectly. Just, the best time to kind of try and gain bonus seconds on the other GC riders. And then with 3.2 kilometers to go, there's this roundabout. I hate these freaking roundabouts. Why are there so many roundabouts so close to the finish? But, whatever. What can we do? I'm just going to try and stop this psyche. Okay. And then we come close to this roundabout with 3.2 Ks to go. And there's a crash. There's a bunch of riders falling. There's 2 Alpecin riders who fell. Maybe 1 Alpecin rider. I actually don't remember because there's some quick-step riders who fell. There were some Intermarché riders who fell. Luckily, none of the GC guys ended up falling. Remco, I do not know how he avoided that crash because it happened right in front of him. Also, Jonas, I thought, wow, that was so lucky on their part because I was like, this is really dangerous. And also, it happened close to McDonald's. So there were so many jokes about, them trying to go to McDonald's. But, it's funny. It's still funny. I thought it was funny. Milan Menton from Lotto Destiny actually ended up falling down, and I was kind of like thinking he might try to go for today's stage, but what can you do? You've fallen down. You cannot do nothing. And then, like I said, these riders are going so fast. I actually took a screenshot of this. They were going 84 kilometers per hour. So this is why I'm so adamant about safety, because these guys are absolutely zooming on, these sprint stages. So please try and make sure that they're as safe as possible and as, not inconvenient for them. Because sometimes I feel like they're too inconvenient. Of course, you can say, yeah, we're trying to go and do something technical here, but still, I feel like sometimes they're just unnecessarily dangerous, especially with turns and roundabouts and some sort of weird placing of the barriers like yesterday, which I'm still mad about those barriers because I feel like that crash could have been avoided because those barriers were just too tight. Why are you putting a barrier in a way which makes it, the rider's turning and, they're on the right track, but then the barrier goes into the road. I don't want to get into it too much, but I thought that was just so unsafe from the organizers, and I'm still mad about that. And then with 1.8 Ks to go, I got excited again because I see Filippo Ganna, and I always will, and I always freaking will notice Filippo Ganna, even if it's a drone shot. He's just so visible. Like, you can see that the Ineos giant is Filippo Ganna. I know the type of rider based on how they look on the bike. A few of those. I do know those because, when you see these people ride so much, you're just gonna know how they look on the bike. And Filippo Ganna is one of those riders. I can just see him coming from the drone shot, and I was so excited because I was like, yes, he's finally not doing work for Ineos. He's trying to do something for himself, and I was so excited about that, especially after this year's classics, because he did so well in this year's classics. I thought, why not try and do something with him? Because he has proven himself to be extremely talented, even in bunch sprints. So I was so excited that he had finally gotten the chance to try and do something here on this stage. So when I saw him, I knew there was something coming up. And I was really worried at first because I thought 1.8Ks to go and he was not really that well positioned. He kind of didn't really have a wheel to go on. There were some riders in front of him, some DSM riders, but I didn't really feel like there was a really good situation from him. So when I saw that he ended up doing something on the stage, I was really excited. But, I'm getting ahead of myself here, but, And then Albus and Polzio, the train for Groves, absolutely. I was sure at that point that he was going to win. I was like, yeah, they're really organized. You can see that they have a mission of trying to do the double, of trying to win another stage with him. And after yesterday, I thought he has the legs. They look really well organized. I say, why not? I feel like they're trying to do something. They're going to try and do something here. And I really thought they had a really great chance. So, but I was still excited for Filippo Ganna. And then we have the last 1K to go. The riders are absolutely going insane. Filippo Ganna, like I said, he didn't really have anyone to ride behind. He kind of was going behind random riders. He went behind some Intermarché riders, and then he went behind some DSM riders. He didn't really have anyone to lead him out. So that was another one of those things when you're like, what if? What if he would have had a lead out train? What if he would have not just been, trying to do something for himself there? So I'm really excited about maybe Ineos finally tries and do something here with a rider, because we can see Filippo Ganna is just, they're like, yeah, he's going to do the time trials and he's going to do the work. But why not try and do something with the guy when he has proven that even despite not having the best team, it sounds so freaking funny, yeah, he doesn't really have the best team when he's literally in Ineos, but that's the reality of it. He doesn't really have that good of a lead out. No one really tries to do something other than GC. I don't know. We're not going to get into Ineos today. But, back to what I was saying. When you have a guy who has proven himself to be capable, especially when what we saw on the classics, try and do something with him. Frig, you have the guy who has record for the hour. He has multiple world championship medals on time trials and on track. God damn it. I would have been so excited if it was the Ineos team. I'd been like, yeah, we're gonna try and do something with him here. Garrett kind of lost some time, so let's try and do something there. But Ineos. But I'm still excited that maybe he wasn't really getting anything, but he still wasn't forced to do any of the work. That's what I'm excited about. And then we have that turn, like I said, 500, 400 meters till the end of the stage. We have that sharp turn. I was so worried. I was praying no one crashes. There's nothing crazy going on there. Luckily, nothing really ended up happening. And then we have the lead out for Caden Groves, which I thought, just looking at the riders, I have this also. I'm looking at my screenshots there. Caden Groves is basically perfect position. He has guys leading him out when the other sprinters are kind of basically, there's the guy there, then there's the guy there. It's all kind of random. So I feel really good situation for him. And then, of course, he launches a sprint. And I feel like it was a really good time. But Filippo Ganna comes in there despite not having anyone freaking lead him out, going off a random wheel of a random freaking rider, no one really going for Ganna. He sprints for the stage and he comes out second. Caden Groves is still the winner, but I thought that was a really good performance for Filippo Ganna. I was so excited for him. I thought, yes, finally we can see some sort of dimension with, not trying to just go for the GC with any else. They're trying to do something here. And I was really excited about this stage. So, you can hear that. I thought that Filippo Ganna was, he proved himself to be, that sprint was freaking quality. He sprinted really well. I was kind of surprised. Maybe not surprised. Like I said, we saw what he did on the classics and what he did on a bunch of races, but still, I thought that was a really good damn sprint. So this is basically it for today's stage. I feel like it did not disappoint, even though it was, it's a typical sprint stage. But like I said, sometimes these sprint stages are still, these still can be really exciting. And that's why I also think that you should try and, watch these kind of stages, not just ignore them, because you can really end up having a really fun time just watching the last few Ks. Even if you don't want to watch the whole thing, just try and watch those last, I don't know, 30 Ks, see the action, see what the riders are doing. It's so fun. When it comes to the time losses of the GC, we have Remco Evenepoel in the red jersey yet again. He has gained those extra 6 seconds. Did he get 6 seconds on the green? Yeah, I think it was 6 seconds. So he has now 11 seconds on Enric Mas, 17 on Lenny Martinez, 37 on Jonas Vingegaard, and 39 seconds on Alexander Vlasov. So that's a pretty nice kind of time gap, especially you have to keep that in mind. We have the time trial coming up. Not coming up, but coming up is like, it's not coming up, but we have the time trial on this Vuelta, which I feel like, it's just the perfect kind of time trial for a guy like Remco. He can, just go out there and absolutely rock it, because we don't know with Jonas. He may do an amazing time trial, but I still have Remco going definitely quicker than Jonas. It's a typical flat TT, so he's still gonna gain some time on those other GC guys on that stage. So I'm really excited to see that stage and how much time he gains. So even though you say, Jonas can gain 37 seconds on him on a difficult climb, but still remember that TT, and I feel like it's gonna be significant during this Vuelta. So that is it when it comes to today's stage and the time losses and the GC situation. Tomorrow we have a mountain stage coming up. We are going up to over 1,900 meters. So it's another one of those killer ones. I expect Quick Step in the front, and also UAE maybe try and do something with Juan Ayuso again, trying to use that situation. Maybe Jumbo-Visma try and do something, because they're kind of like been in the front, but I've not really seen them fight with their fists. This is such a weird comparison, but I'm really excited for tomorrow. I'm really excited. I feel like that final kick of a stage is gonna just of the climb is gonna really show us what the hell's going on. And also, not even that, it's a really hard climb. I feel like it's a really hard climb. Looking at the profile, it's 11 kilometers with an average of 7.8, and there's double digits going on there. There's 11% there, there's 10% there, there's 9 point something percent there. So it's definitely going to be intense. The finish, this is why also I'm really hyped for it, because the second part of the climb is the harder part, which is like, this is going to be exciting. There's going to be some attacking going on. They're going to try and do something. Jumbo is going to try and gain some time. Remco is going to try and gain some time. I'm really excited. I hope tomorrow's going to be exciting. Also have a driving license test tomorrow, the theoretical part. So I'm excited for the stage, but I'm really scared for that one. But, that maybe is going to bring my mood up a little bit more. But, I'm going to watch as soon as I can tomorrow. Just try and not miss as much. And, we're still missing it. We're still not getting the full coverage. But, what can you do? Nothing. So that is it when it comes to today's stage and tomorrow's stage. I hope you enjoyed this podcast of me just talking about this stage number 4. And I hope stage number 4 or number 5. I don't even know. So yeah, it was stage number 5. Thank you so much for listening again, and I hope you enjoyed this podcast, and see you soon.